Hey, David, how's it going?
Good.
I don't know. You just put a bow tie on it. What did you think of this season? I mean, are you mildly disappointed where you guys ended up, or are you kind of happy with the progress you guys made, or what?
I think a little bit of both. I think anytime you don't play a game yesterday or tonight, it's disappointing for me. But that was also kind of the message heading into this year that we wanted to try and play meaningful games as long as we could, probably knowing that we wouldn't be part of the dance. But I've seen crazier things happen. Like I've seen a Vegas team form with all kind of guys that weren't protected. Head to the Stanley Cup final, really. So that's why I listened to what Steve and everyone was talking about. But you never know in this game, and that's why you try and push for the best and invest as much as you can into your year, so you put your best foot forward.
It sounds like a guy like you. I mean, next season, I mean, it's got to be the play. You guys got to be thinking about playoffs. You think, or what?
I hope so. We should. I think we should have been thinking about it as players anyway this year too. But I do think that guys are going to be a little bit more invested, knowing I think the standard has been elevated this year, and we got to keep doing that. And there's a long way to go. And you see teams around the league, like they have a lot of good players, young guys coming in, draft picks, all that stuff. Everyone's thinking they're going to trend up. But to me, it doesn't just happen that way. You got to keep pushing for more. You got to keep investing each and every day, and even in practice. Really, I thought our practices, the quality of our practices, increased a lot throughout each month, really, and I hope we keep doing that.
And what did you think of Derek's first year as a coach?
A lot of great things. I think for me, the first thing that sticks to my mind when I talk about Newsy or think about him is meetings, his video sessions with the group were spot on. Like of all the coaches I've had in my career, I've had a lot of great ones, a lot of good people that I connected strongly with, and I think he's up there when it comes to that, where the message that needs to be sent on any given day, whether it's correction or sometimes jump starting us, whatever it was, I thought he was spot on.
And I'm just curious, you know, so many people around the league, you played with so many guys. Is there one guy or maybe one team that you're looking at in the playoffs this year that you're kind of pulling for or something like that? Just curious.
I'm a good friend with Jonathan Marchessault in Vegas,
Okay.
and a lot of his friends around in the last 5 years have found a way to win cups with actually Alex Chiasson that was with us, myself, Yanni Gourde, David Savard, some of those guys, all guys I think outside of me from Quebec City in his kind of area where he grew up. And if anyone that I'd like to see him raise the cup, I think it'd be him for me. I think there's other guys, like a guy like Sonny in Minnesota. I think they really put on a good team there. I've said that a while ago. They're my dark horse in the West, in my opinion. They're built well. They play a good brand of hockey that can be successful. They have some skill. I think they've gone through some battles where they've thought they should win and they didn't, including maybe even last year against us and some other years. So I'm looking forward to see how they play in the playoffs.
Good stuff. I appreciate this, David.
Yep.
Hey, David, you talked about kind of raising the standard. I'm curious, like, what did you see change from day one of camp to sitting here today?
Practice habits, making sure that you don't just go on the ice and I don't know if it's coasting around was the right word that was happening, but definitely investing into every day, knowing that it's critical to have quality practices. And some days we're not out there long, but they need to be great days. And I thought, for the most part, I thought we stayed with our game plan for the whole year. I thought that was really good to see. I think it's in every aspect, at the rink, at the gym, in the gym. How you react to games, playing the right way of hockey, that you can play like that game one, you can play like that game 82 and to the playoffs, and never waver from that. And I think we can keep increasing the standard in that regard too.
Steve talked about, he's hoping that a lot of the offensive improvement can come through the young guys taking those incremental steps. What did you see from guys like Berggren, Veleno over the course of the year, and how optimistic, I guess, are you that they have another year in them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for a lot of our young guys. I think Joe especially, I saw him over the summer, skated a couple times with him. Didn't really know like too much about him. Didn't know where he's supposed to fit in our lineup, quite honestly. And I just saw him progress each and every day. I had so many conversations with him in French and English. I would say his French is kind of like my English. It is a little bit of an accent in French. So we got a lot of fun hanging out together away from the rink too. On the road, and I think he's a great kid that listens, that wants to be good, and wants to have success. I'm really looking forward to how he has a great summer and he comes back next year. And I think for him there was so many expectation, like even from it seems like a teenager, all that stuff, to be this fast skating offensive player. And I mean, it's you got to build your game to get to that level. I don't know if he will get to like a top flight offensive player, but at the same time, I think what he can do is he can skate. He can be hard to play against. We've seen some physical play out of him. I see it in the room how he wants to keep getting better. So I have a lot of time for him to keep helping him, and so many other guys like you didn't name like Mo and Razor. They're young guys. They've pushed all year to keep getting better, and I thought Bergie was a nice surprise for sure coming in. I think there'll be even more competition next year. For him to come back. So, yeah, I think he needs to have a good summer as well.
Thanks, David.
Yep.
Hi, David. Andrew Kopp was on yesterday saying, he'll be 100% coming into camp, not coming off surgery this coming season like he was last year. Fabry will be 100%. How much difference do you think it'll make having all these guys ready for camp, and then there won't be the newness that there was this year? How much difference will that make?
A lot. I'm extremely excited for camp personally next year. I'm excited for Copper to get a full camp with the guys. I'm excited that the older guys, the guys that have been here this year with Newsy, we're gonna go into every practice knowing most drills, and that's kind of what I meant by the standard. You just don't go out there and kind of react to practice. You push the pace, you increase the intensity, you increase the competitiveness and all aspect that can make us better in the end. And I'm looking forward to Camp and Traverse for many aspects. I think Copper, especially the way it started, I've been very impressed with his year. Tough way to start the year. Doesn't score goals for a bit to start. Obviously, I'm sure he puts a lot of pressure on himself. He wants to be successful, and I think he really solidified himself. He had a great year after that. I think a lot of PK, his face-offs were really good the last part of the year, and I do think his offensive numbers are going to be a lot better next year. Having a full camp under him and kind of not trying to make up ground there for the first 20, 25 games.
And then you kind of mentioned this at the trade deadline, but you guys weren't mathematically eliminated until the last week of the season. How much that'll help young guys realize if you just, you talked about that consistent effort. If that's there every night and you win 3 or 4 more games, what a difference that can make.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen like that either. So it's going to be nice to push earlier maybe for those games. Realize that the tough losses that we are going to have at time can make a difference. And maybe this year we would kind of roll the day over, and we still have to do that most days, but maybe you just rolled it over and kind of like kept pushing forward, where we're going to have to start feeling the pain maybe a little bit earlier, so that we do realize that it raises the urgency of everybody. Again, that's where I think the next day at practice, you take it out and you kind of make sure you have a really good day. You turn the page in that regard, and you can move forward after that.
Thank you.
David, when you look at this season, I mean, pretty much every player the Wings brought in, including yourself, had really good years. Dylan Larkin had a career year, and Ville Husso established himself as a number 1 goalie. A lot of things turned out really well for this team, and yet it was so hard to move up. I mean, it really emphasizes just how much of a challenge it is just to get in the playoffs in this league now. It's not like the old days when 16 out of 21 got in. It's 16 out of 32. So
yeah.
And that, when you talk about keeping your foot on the gas, I mean, that really kind of emphasizes it there. Like a bad week or two could be the difference.
Yeah, that's spot on. Like, I don't know what else to add. And you look at Boston, people think they should be going down the last 5 years. They find a way to have the best season in history, really. I played against a team in Dallas that when the year we won in 2019. And I didn't really know how it was going to go with some of the guys there, like Jamie Benn and Tyler, and they found a way to kind of rejuvenate themselves. Had great years. They're there again. They're one of the better teams in the NHL this year. It's never nothing's given. We got, Steve and Newsy, everyone talked about Buffalo, Ottawa, where they're at in their progression. So I think it's going to be hard next year to even get to the same level and keep it pushing for more. Like I think my old team in St. Louis, we had a kind of 108 points or 110. They went down to something like 80. So there's nothing given. You got to keep pushing, and that's why I think for me that my message really is the standard needs to keep elevating every single day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, David, like you were just mentioning, Buffalo and Ottawa. You guys are in a very tough division, and then those two teams there that didn't make the playoffs have a lot of young talent and are up and coming. Just how much more of a challenge does that make it just to take the next step for your team?
Yeah, definitely. It's the challenge is there, and I think for me, I even though I talk about those other teams, but I don't really care. I'm trying to focus on what we're going to do, and I think that's what's going to give us success. We can't worry about where other teams are in their progression as players. I think you let the management and Steve, they're full aware of all that. They know what they're doing. And for us, we can't worry about it. Like maybe other teams will make bad moves, and next thing you know, we're ahead of them. And that's been done so many times in the history. You think teams are up and coming, and they don't get there. And then next thing you know, they're rebuilding again. So I'm not saying those teams that are possibly slightly ahead of us are going to do that, but for me, I'm only worried about helping Detroit Red Wings and keep pushing for more here.
And if there was one area that you think especially needs improvement going into next year, is there one that stands out over any other?
I would like to see us play with more bite at time. Just get in guys' face, and yeah, it's getting maybe more physical players, but I'm not sure it's only that. I think it's got to come from within. Also, I think most guys, and I know I said that about Razor and seen a couple of tweets, and I do believe he plays his best when he's feisty. He's emotional, a little bit in control though. And but that goes for every player. I think that goes for myself as well. That's when I play my best games, and you got to flirt with that line of like too much emotion and not enough, and kind of like keep pushing for the right standard for whatever night is in front of us, so that you can play your best. And I think as guys we need to all increase that.
Thanks, David.
Yep.
Last question, Art Reitner.
Hi, David. You said something right at the end of the year in one of your post-game pressers that's kind of stuck with me. And this might be a follow-up to a couple of questions, but you were the last guy in the room to tell Derek, hey, if we win 10 in a row, we could still be in it. I mean, the optimism. But my question is this. Is that maybe the most difficult thing for a young team experiencing some things for the first time in the NHL is to be balanced, not to have peaks and valleys, that not that they didn't, but you have to show up, you have to play heavier, you have to do this until the bitter end. I mean, did you find yourself maybe being such a mentor or teacher to these guys because they just didn't know?
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there, but yeah, like a lot of things, you can't always be saying it in the room out openly. Maybe at times saying it to the media. Guys read tweets, they hear about it, whatever. I was the guy that went to Newsy before the deadline and said, listen, like we go 9-3 or whatever I said to him. We had 12 games before the deadline. Maybe we make it hard on Steve or other like decisions to, or maybe it gives enough belief that we're going to find a way and push through. And if you're going to make the playoffs, you need to have a 5-game winning streak in there somewhere. You need to have 6 or 7. You need to go, I don't know, 9-1-1 in a 11-game span. And also the reason why I said 9-3 is at the time, I don't know how many points back we were, but for me, if you look at playoff teams, they're not really going to go much below 6-2-2 on 10 games, and that's 14 points. So that means you need to make up more than 14 points per 10 game to get in the play, to kind of make ground on them. And at the time, the math kind of round out to be if we go 9-3, it puts us equal to those teams. That's where I came with that. So, and then after that, I just kept pushing for sure till the end. I could kind of see the writing on the wall, but I just didn't want to admit it in my play, in my preparation, in everything that I was doing. And also, I think maybe other guys around, hopefully, were looking, and more guys were doing that because of it.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking you this is that there seemed to be a shock wave after the trade deadline with the team that kind of lingered. Is that in the long run, although you're disappointed, you're losing friends, guys that you played with, but is that maybe a good thing, a growing experience, and that maybe hopefully they won't have to be sellers anymore? But if you do experience that again, that they can kind of get themselves out of it a little quicker than it appeared, at least, that after the last trade deadline. Hopefully that does make sense.
Yeah, those are tough when it's some of the first times that you go through trades of important players and guys like Bert that had been around and maybe other guys on the team kind of felt like they were just going to all be there together for their whole career. And I've gone through it several times, and it's always hurtful. It hurts very much, but I think guys need to realize that next year, if we don't win, it's the same thing again. No one feels bad for us around the league. We got to find a way to come through, and you can't fault our management or any management for making the decisions that our performance put in front of them, and that's how they felt at the time. And there'll be other years where it's the opposite. Who knows, maybe in 10 years, by the way, I'll be 44, so I'll still be around in this team, but no, but maybe in 10 years, you got an older team and you don't deserve it as much, but the team pushes for one more run. You've seen that around the league. I'm not going to name teams, but they end up squeezing in at the end, and they're an older team, and maybe they didn't deserve. If we were in that position at our age, I'm not sure Steve would have made those moves. So every situation is different.
One more question about the environment and playing here in Detroit. Obviously you've played here before as an opposing player, but it seems that the fan base has the same kind of mindset you do. It isn't over until it's over, kind of mathematically eliminated. But were you surprised at this environment and how you really did kind of take to this city in a relatively short period of time?
I mean, I love my year off the ice, getting to know the city, just my neighborhood where I live, kids' school. My wife likes it here. Everything really. We've been extremely pleasantly surprised about everything here. I think for me, seeing the passion of the fans every single night in the building was something that I don't take for granted. I'm sure all of our guys feel that way. I think another level where I get to see more people is, let's say, my son's hockey team, like the minor. There's people around. They kind of run into me. We talk about hockey, things like that, how excited they are for games and all that. So I feel like my kids have brought me another understanding of passion for the game from the fans here in the city. I'm not sure I'm wording it perfectly right, but I was very impressed by the fan base and kind of the environment, the atmosphere in the building on most games this year, really.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your time. Best of luck.
Thank you.